Oh, hello. In today's video, we're going to do a rundown of the Hernkyn Yagir kill team. So this is the second kill team that was released in the termination box. I put up a video about the Brew Brothers a couple of days ago. You can check that out on the channel. But now it's the turn of the sneaky squats. So the Yagir kill team, in total contrast to the Brew Brothers kill team, is a really simple one-box team, more or less. So you're going to take your Yagir Thane, and then you're going to take a Bladekin, a Bombast, a Gunner, an Ironbreak, a Riflekin, a Tracker, and then you are forced to take 3 warriors. So it's similar to the Mandrakes in that regard. Your leader doesn't have any choices. The only choice that you have to make is that your warriors can be armed with either a bolt revolver and plasma knife loadout, or a bolt shotgun and fists loadout. Possibly you go for the shotguns. It actually comes down to how you want to allocate your equipment points. I'll get into that later towards the end of the video because it's a little bit weird and complicated. In terms of archetypes, you've got Infiltrate and Seek and Destroy. I don't generally rate the Infiltrate archetype, so I think if you're playing these, I would consider them locked to Seek and Destroy. Seek and Destroy is probably one of my favourite archetypes in the game, though, so I don't think that's a bad thing. I think they can do well with Seek and Destroy. Abilities. So they have 2 abilities. The first one is Dauntless Explorers. If you are not using the close quarters rules, in the setup operative step, up to 3 friendly Hernkyn Yagir operatives can be set up with a conceal order, wholly within 2 circle of your drop zone, and more than square from the enemy operatives and your opponent's drop zone. In ordinary circumstances, this will always be more than square from your opponent's drop zone, but some mission maps may differ, e.g. shadow operations. Operatives set up in this manner cannot make shooting attacks or perform the charge action during the first turning point. So, in normal games, to break it down for you, in normal games you've got 3 operatives who, as long as they're on conceal, can deploy 2 circle of your drop zone, right? So they can start off 2 circle at the board. This is really useful to you because you have a low movement. Spoilers. Now, it does say if you do that, you can't shoot or charge, right? So not only are you on a conceal, but you can't shoot or charge, no matter how you would get around it. It does then say in close quarters it works differently, so you don't get a 2 circle move. Instead, I'll read it. If you're using the close quarters rules, at the end of the setup operative step, in an order of your choice, up to 3 friendly Hernkyn Yagir operatives that have conceal orders and are wholly within your drop zone can perform up to 2 different actions from the following for free. So you can do a normal move, operate hatch, and dash. So 3 models can do 2 actions. So you could normal move and open a hatch. You can open a hatch and normal move. You could normal move and dash. Pretty powerful, right? Again, it's all about giving you that opportunity to start with 3 of your models halfway up the board because you've got quite low movement. But again, you can't do anything during turn 1. You can't shoot or charge. So it's all about getting you in the position to do some stuff usefully for turn 2. You've also got resourceful. So it's a pool resource tracking mechanic. Okay, so keep a pool of resourceful points. Not resource points, resourceful points. In the ready operative step of each turning point after the first, add resourceful points to your pool, determined by the number of friendly Hernkyn Yagir operatives in the kill zone that aren't within engagement range of an enemy operative. At the end of each turning point, discard the resourceful points in your pool. And then the table here says that if you have 6 or more operatives, you get 2 resourceful points. 3 to 5, you get 1 resourceful point. And if you have only 0 to 2, you get 0 resourceful points. So if you're doing well, you'll get loads of resourceful points. And if you're not doing well, you will get less. So it is a win more mechanic rather than a catch-up mechanic. Each time, so what do you do with them? Each time a friendly Hernkyn Yagir operative that isn't within engagement range of an enemy operative is activated, you can spend 1 of your resourceful points to do one of the following effects. Add 1 to your APL, or you can regain D3 plus 1 lost wounds. So most of the time, you are going to use it to gain an APL, right? That's stronger generally than healing, but having the option to use 1 to heal might come up in sort of clutch circumstances. So you're going to have, in turn 2, unless you've been decimated, you're going to generate 2 of these points. And if your leader's alive, slight spoilers, he can generate a 3rd one, so you're going to have 3 of these points. You have to use them that turn because it does say that they are discarded at the end of each turning point. So you can't bank them up for like a really big turn 3 or something. You have to use them that turn. So you'll have 3 models that can be APL 3, probably in turn 2, which is worth bearing in mind as we look for the rest of the team. Yeah. Okay. So let's look at the strat ploys first. I like to do the ploys before the operatives. Some people do it another way around, but I think the ploys really help you into understanding the team a lot of the time. So strat ploys, I think the strat ploys are all really powerful. Hidden engagement, 1 CP. Until the end of the turning point, each time a friendly Hernkyn Yagir operative makes a shooting attack, in the roll attack dice step of that shooting attack, if it's in cover from the target's line of sight, you can reroll one of your attack dice. Note that your opponent determines the line of sight, i.e. they decide what part of the target's base to draw cover lines from. I think this seems really powerful, because it should be able to get your reroll. Like, I think people are in cover a lot of the time. You know, and so yeah, I think 1 CP, if you're in cover when you shoot somebody, you can reroll one of your attack dice, I think is powerful. Especially, like, you can spend a CP for a CP reroll, right? You've got a gunner and you've got a sniper. Your sniper is pretty well always going to be in cover, like, all the time, because that's how snipers work, right? So he will get a CP reroll. So basically, if you can spot one other person on the board that's going to be shooting from cover, you're making, you're making CP back as opposed to using the 1 CP reroll. So quite a good strategic ploy. Masterful blade work. So it's 1 CP. Until the end of the turning point, each time a friendly Hernkyn Yagir fights in combat as the active operative or with a conceal order, in the roll attack dice step of combat, you can reroll one of your attack dice. So again, if you can see that your guys on conceal are about to get charged, or if you know that you're going to try and get a couple of charges this turn, you know, more than one anyway, this can also be worth doing. It's a solid ploy. If you're in position for a couple of fights, rerolls across the board for 1 CP is pretty good. Tough Survivalists is 1 CP. Until the end of the turning point, the first time each friendly Hernkyn Yagir operative fights in combat, or a shooting attack is made against it, in the resolved successful hit step of that combat or shooting attack, you can halve the damage inflicted on a friendly operative, rounding up from one of your opponent's successful hits. So this is actually really good. It's not blocking that much damage, right, because it's halving 1 dice. So it's possibly not going to make the difference when you're being shot. But in combat, because combat ends when one person dies, and a lot of people have a really idea of, oh, well, I've got this weapon, so I can kill him, you know, I'll hit him, he'll hit me, I'll hit him. This sort of thing can just really upset the maths, where if you can survive one exchange, and then you get to hit the opponent with an extra dice, and then you kill them, and you're alive on 1 or 2 wounds, you know, that can be really worth doing. And so, like, it begs the question, if you have 1 CP and you're anticipating a lot of close combats, are you going to go for Masterful Blade Work, or are you going to go for Tough Survivalists? And I'd be tempted to go for Tough Survivalists. I think that's going to affect the outcome of a fight possibly more. I don't know. And then Imposition, which is definitely the best to last, 1 CP, until the end of the turning point, while friendly Hernkyn Yagir operatives have a conceal order, they're always treated as having a conceal order, regardless of any other rules, e.g. vantage point. So you just get super conceal for 1 CP. I mean, obviously that's good, right? Obviously that's good. It means that you don't really have to worry about people on vantage points. Yeah. And the trouble is, you got a limited number of CP, and these are all really good strategic ploys. So it's about deciding which ones are best and when you're going to use them, and you can't just afford to go, I'm having super conceal every turn. You've got to look, well, am I actually going to get, what am I going to get out of that? What am I going to get out of that this turn? Who's up there? Who's going to shoot me? So it's a tough one, because you have to make choices, and it's almost annoying when all your strategic ploys are really good, right? Because it's like, you know, if your team's got one really good strategic ploy that you want to do every turn and the other 3 suck, then it's like, cool, I know what I'm doing. But with this, it's like you've got to kind of have that analysis moment where you're like, oh, which one do I want to do? Because I think they all have a really solid place in playing the team. Let's look at attack ploys. So 1 CP, Stalwart Defense. Use this tactical ploy when an enemy operative ends the move within engagement range of a friendly Hernkyn Jaeger operative. Select one other friendly Hernkyn Jaeger operative visible to him within red of that friendly operative. The selective operative can perform an overwatch action, but can only target the enemy operative, and only if it's a valid target. However, ignore all other operatives when selecting a valid target and determining cover, i.e. it can make a shooting attack into engagement range. So to break this down, if someone charges one of your guys and you've got another guy nearby, you can pay a CP to shoot that guy with Overwatch. Now, this is alright for 1 CP, like it sounds really good, but just remember, it's an Overwatch shot, so it's -1 to hit, and your base ballistic skill, and it's a bit weird because you've got shotguns, but your base ballistic skill is 4+. So you're just going to have to decide whether it's actually, just given how precious your CP are and how many really cool things you can do with CP, is doing this going to be useful? You have to really weigh it up on a case-by-case basis. You know, how many wounds am I going to do? How many wounds does the person charging me have? What's going to happen? Hardy for 1 CP. Use a tactical ploy at the start of the roll defense dice step of a shooting attack made against a friendly Hernkyn Jaeger. Change your opponent's retained critical hits to normal hits. Any crit hit rolls they've already resolved are unaffected. So it's the start of the roll defense dice step. So you can see what they've rolled, right? And do the maths and work out whether this would save your life, right? But it's before you've rolled your defense dice. So I guess there's a little bit of gamble to it, right? But bear in mind, just any mortal wounds they get through are already through, right? Because that's a critical hit roll. Hang on, am I sure about that? Any critical hit rules they've already resolved are unaffected, e.g. P1. Wouldn't they have resolved... Because they definitely resolved the P1. Yes, I'm pretty sure your mortal wounds would already have gotten through if you've been shot by like a melter gun or something, so just bear that in mind. Bonds that bind. Bonds that bind. 1 CP. Use this tactical ploy when a friendly Hernkyn Jaeger operative is activated. Select one other friendly Hernkyn Jaeger operative visible to him within blue of that operative that's eligible to be activated. After the first operative's activation ends, you can activate that other friendly operative. Neither operative can be a Bombast operative if its Warlock negotiation ability is used at the start of the firefight phase. So the Bombast, I know we haven't got there yet, the Bombast already has a way to shoot twice in a turning point, so they don't want him activating, like, they don't want him to shoot and then they don't want to give you the triple thing where you shoot with the Bombast, then you activate the Bombast, and then you bonds that bind to someone else and activate with somebody else, right? Because that could get silly. But I think this is really good. I think this is one of those rare tactical ploys that you actually like have as part of your plan and you try and accomplish, especially against elite teams where you're probably going to need the combined fire or attacks from 2 of your models to try and take down like a Space Marine. And this gives you the ability to try and do that, which is pretty cool. And then you've got no kin left behind, 1 CP. Use this tactical ploy when a friendly Hernkyn Jaeger operative is incapacitated. Before that operative is removed from the kill zone, remove your fallen kin token from the kill zone, if any, and then place it underneath the operative as close as possible to the centre of its base. Each time a friendly Hernkyn Jaeger operative within blue of your fallen kin token fights in combat or makes shooting attack in the roll attack dice step of that combat or shooting attack, you can retain one of your failed hits as a successful normal hit instead, or one of your successful normal hits as a critical hit instead. So if you have somebody that dies on like an objective in the centre where you know there's going to be a lot of future fighting, right? This is definitely worth doing because you stick a permanent aura a permanent aura of retaining a failed hit as a normal hit or a normal as a crit, which is better than a reroll, much better. And it can be for everybody. If it's going to pop off on an objective, it can be for everybody. And there's nothing your opponent can do to remove it as well. If the model's literally on the objective, that's when I would be wanting to use this. Obviously, you can only have one, so it's something you spend 1 CP on and then forget, right? Okay, let's get into the data cards. So we've got our Thane. Let's look at the stat block first. So move 2 circles. So famously, the other Leagues of Votann team did get their movement buffed. Off of 2 circle, they got a little bit extra movement, so you're back down to movement 2 circle. Your APL 2, your J1, defense 3, a 4-up save. He's got 9 wounds, and the regular rest of the guys have 8 wounds. So it's not the most impressive stat block going, right? Now, the nice thing about the Thane is he doesn't have to make any choices. He has the bolt revolver, the bolt shotgun, and the plasma knife. Compared to the other soldiers in your squad, your bolt revolver has lethal 5-up, right? Remember that. So at the very end, we're going to look at the warriors who have a bolt revolver. The warriors' bolt revolver, they're hitting on 4s, and they don't have that lethal 5-up. So I think for the Thane, like, the bolt revolver is the ranged attack you want to consider. Obviously, if you need to shoot at long range, you're stuck with your 4 dice hitting on 4s, 2-2 long range shotgun. Try not to be doing that very often. But then if you get into short range, I mean, there's maths involved, right? 4 dice hitting on 2s, 4-4. 4 dice hitting on 3s, 3-5, but with lethal 5-up. Maybe it's me being a bit of a gambler, okay? But I'd probably go for the bolt revolver in the hopes of getting a couple of those crits, right? Now, his abilities, you've got Veteran Adventurer. In the ready operative step of each turning point after the first, if his operative isn't within engagement range of an enemy operative, you get your extra resourceful point, which I already mentioned at the start. But yeah, he can get you that 3rd resourceful point and as long as he's alive, even if the rest of your team was dead, you can get that 1 resourceful point, so that's handy, okay? And it does that for free as well, doesn't have to spend an APL, which is nice. And then he also has Outright Conviction, which is kind of bonkers. So the first time the operative will be incapacitated during the battle, it is left with 1 wound remaining instead, and cannot be incapacitated for the remainder of the action. All remaining attack dice are discarded, including yours if you're fighting in combat. So if he's killed, he's actually alive on 1 wound, right? Which is really dwarven, really cool, really like it. And of course, with the, that's one of those few moments where you might actually use a resourceful point to heal, if you can then immediately activate him and heal him back up. And that's going to be really annoying for your opponent that has worked to kill him with something. Obviously, against some teams, like Space Marines, who can shoot twice and or fight twice, it's like, no, never mind, right? Because they're like, right, down on 1, oh, I'm still alive, that's cool, shoot you again, now you're dead. But against teams that can't do that, it is pretty funny. It is pretty funny. This leader doesn't really do a lot. Yes, he gives you an extra resourceful point, so and of course you don't want to ever get your leader killed very easily because you don't want to give up Headhunter potentially. But beyond that, he doesn't do much, right? But he's pretty cool. Bladekin. So, fun enough, much like the Knife Fighter in G-Steel Occult, you've also got a can charge from conceal, lethal 5-up knife fellow, right? Enjoy it, right? He has a gun. It's only a 1-shot gun. He can throw his plasma knife. 4 dice hitting on 3, 3, 5. Okay, fine. Yeah. It is range red, lethal 5-up, limited and silent. Not bad. But he's got his dual plasma knives, which I like it. Charge from conceal, which is good. Lethal 5-up, which is good. Hits on 3s, which is good. Relentless, which is good. And then his thing is, apart from the charge from conceal, is if he's incapacitated in combat, you can strike with 1 of your remaining attack dice before it's removed from the kill zone. So this means that potentially you can trade him into an elite if you're really lucky, right? If you get like 2 crits and a hit, right? But because what it means is that you can go in and you can score a dice and then take a hit and then score a dice and then be killed and then get a 3rd dice on, right? Now, so if, of course, you're going to get, probably your opponent's going to realise this and you're going to get a parry. But if you manage to hit, if you don't roll any 1s or 2s, right, and you lethal 5-up, so you roll your dice, if you manage not to roll any 1s or 2s, so you got 4 dice, right, you hit, right, then you parry, you're down to 3 dice again, you hit, right, and then they'd have to burn 2 parries. It's not always going to work, but he does have the chance of just being able to charge into a Space Marine, like not a let's not be silly, not a Primaris Marine, but like a Legionary, and he may actually kill them, which is pretty cool. Just because of that, yeah, you kill me, cool, I can still resolve a dice, but it's not a dead cert, right? Now, if he has 3 APL. And you get to, if you're in position to like throw your throwing knife and then charge and then fight, that's, obviously going to make it better. Against non-elites, most non-elites, he should be able to get the kill without having to sacrifice himself, right, on at least 1 model, because he's going to kill most things in a crit and a hit, right, and he's going to be able to take, because he's going to got charge from conceal, so there's a good chance he's going to get the charge. you know, and he's got lethal 5 up, so good chance he's going to have a crit. So he's probably going to be able to kill an 8 wound model and survive that combat. And then of course you could heal up if you wanted to with your resourceful points, I suppose, if you didn't want the extra APL, you know. Right, the Bombast. The Bombast is really cool. So the Bombast is your dueling pistol kind of an archetype, like Gunslinger, which is pretty cool. Rortlock revolvers. So 4 dice hitting on 3s, 3/5, balanced, lethal 5 up, and range, red plus blue. Come on, like, I was a shapes stan. I think shapes are a decent thing. I think they make the game accessible to non-war gamers and all the rest. But when you start doing shape math, I said it in the last video, I'll say it again in this one. When you start doing shape math, you're straining the system. And if you're straining a system like that, okay, fine, we can go back to inches. Like, I know it's... Some people upset. Some people say, yes, of course, I've been on team images from the start. And other people will be like, no, you know, making people go and buy tape measure, it puts people off. It's gatekeeper-y. We'll get more people in this way. I just really... I liked it before. I just don't like shape math. Like, let's not do it. Okay. The Rortlock revolvers are pretty good though, and joking aside, the fact they're a bit longer range than most like pistols is pretty cool, because it means against someone else who also might have like a plasma pistol or a melter gun or something, you don't have to be within their range to stop and shoot at them, which is pretty helpful. Okay. But his big thing is his abilities. So he has Rortlock Negotiation at the start of the firefight phase. Before operatives are activated, this operative can perform a free shoot, and if you have a conceal, you can change to engage to do so. Now, if you have priority and you get to do your shoot and then immediately go into your bombast a second time and activate, that's really cool, right? Obviously, you need to be in a position where you're within range of somebody without having to move, okay? So it's not going to be a thing that you can do every single turn, but he has quite a long range, right? You should often be able to find somebody within range that you can shoot. And then you've got Brazen Killer, which can really off-balance your opponent if it like goes off for you. So each time this operative incapacitates an enemy operative, you're rolling a d6 separately for each other enemy operative visible to and within circle of that enemy operative. If the result is greater than the other enemy operative's APL, you subtract 1 from its APL, which, you know, if your opponent is clustered and if your dice roll works out for you, you're reducing the APL of a bunch of enemy operatives from 2 down to 1 can really bugger up what that, you know, that by itself could potentially, if your opponent lets it, like screw up an entire turning point. On the other hand, your dice could just sort of say, nah, right? And you roll 1s or 2s. And again, obviously against elite teams, it's less effective and less effective because you're rolling against APL, but you're also going down from 3 to 2, which you can still be an effective thing with 2 APL. You can still move and shoot, right? Gunner. So we've got a gunner, and the gunner doesn't have a choice, which is interesting. It's the first time I think we've had just, here's your gunner, here's his gun. And he's the anti-choice gun, because not only does he not have to choose which gun he wants to carry, but the one gun he does carry has a massive array of things. So your basic profile is the armor piercing. So 5 dice hitting on 4s is only hitting on 4s, right? 4, 5 AP1. And then basically you can go down to 3/5 for a you can go down to 3/5 and you lose the AP1, but you gain Blast Circle, or you can go down to 2/4, again lose the AP1, but gain Blast Blue, which is pretty nuts. Now, you know, obviously, I think most of the time you're going to end up wanting to fire the armor piercing, but especially that breaching profile on Into the Dark, where because you have blast, you've also got lethal 5 up, so you're more likely to get the full 5 damage. Could be worth considering, right? Now he has Cumbersome. Cumbersome is you can't move more than 3 circle. This doesn't really bother you because you're an APL2 model with a 2 circle move, right? And even if you had the 3rd APL, you used one of your resourceful points to give yourself APL 3, you could still move and like do 2 inches of your 3-inch dash, right? And shoot. So Cumbersome, it doesn't do nothing, okay, but it only really comes into play in a very narrow circumstances and takes an inch off your maximum possible movement. All right. And then you've got the weapon bipod, which is a good reason why you might not want to move. Because if you make a shooting attack with your APM launcher in the roll attack step of the shooting attack, if you did not move during the turning point, you can reroll any or all of your attack dice of one result. So like all the ones, all the twos, all the threes, whatever you want to do. Which, bearing in mind he's got hitting on fours, is something that you're probably going to want to do, right? So I can see him wanting to be quite static, okay? And bear in mind as well, if we flip back to the ploys here, if you think about it, if you want to go for hidden engagement, right, which is 1 CP, which gives you another reroll, so that can, you turn that on. If you've got this guy who wants to really try and camp behind cover, and you've also got your sniper who wants to camp behind cover, this could be worth doing. And then suddenly you are, you can reroll all the dice of one result, and then additionally you could re-roll another dice, right? So you could re-roll if you had like mostly ones and 1 2, you could re-roll all the ones and also the 2. So it just makes that a bit more reliable, and you're looking for ways to boost your reliability just because you're hitting on fours. So yeah, pretty cool. And then we've got the Iron Breck. Now the Iron Breck is a whole thing, right? So the Iron Breck's not very exciting in terms of the damage he does. He has a standard-ass bolt revolver, which, like I said, because he's not the leader, doesn't have lethal 5-up, don't really care. And then he has his Entrencher, which is 3 dice hitting on 4s, 3-4. Like, that's not what he's about. This guy, you bring him so you have... you bring him because you haven't got a lot of choices, but you also because of the minefield mechanics. So there's a lot of text here, right? So first of all, minefield. You have 5 minefield tokens for the battle. On the reverse side, 3 of them are Hypex mines, and 2 of them are blank. At the end of the setup operative step, you can set up any number of your minefield tokens reverse side down. Their specifics are not revealed. Each token must be more than circle from objective markers, enemy operatives and access points, and more than red from your opponent's drop zone and your other minefield tokens. Each time this operative is revealed, if it's not within engagement range of your enemy operative, you can reset one of your flipped minefield tokens within circle, so flip it back over again. So I think this is a little bit overwrought. Like, you've got this business, you've got 5 tokens, and 3 of them are mines, and 2 of them are black, and it's a really cool idea. But then the rules of where you can place them and the size of the kill team board mean that you're quite limited in where they can go. You kind of end up stringing them across the centre line a little bit. And you're putting them down, you're putting them down at the end of the setup operative step, so you know where your opponent's deployed. It's probably going to be pretty obvious to both of you where your real mines are. I don't know how often the blank ones and the whole the poker thing is going to come into play. This doesn't make the operative bad, because let's look at the Hypex mines. So each time an enemy operative moves or is set up within a circle of one of your moves or is set up within. So, hey, Mandrakes that just got in their FAQ about not triggering proximity mines. As my reading is, this is explicitly written this way to catch Mandrakes. So a Mandrake will set off this kind of mine because it says moves or is set up within. No? Let me know. Of one of your reverse side down minefield tokens, as long as there are no friendly Hernkyn Yagir operatives within circle. So your mines are intelligent and will never kill your own dudes. Interrupt the action and flip the token over. If it's blank, there's no effect. If it's bear in mind, you will know where your Hypex mines are, right? The enemy operative suffers 3 mortal wounds, and you roll a d6. If the result is under the save characteristic or invulnerable save, opponent's choice, it suffers additional mortal wounds equal to the dice result, right? So it can easily one-shot a Gene Stealer cultist or a guardsman, right? Can it? Result is under the target save. No, yeah. So Gene Stealer cultists have 5-up save, and Vet Guard have 5-up save, 7 wounds. So if you're 5-up save and 7 wounds, if you roll a 4, the mine has just taken you from full to dead, which is pretty interesting. Now, not a lot of teams out there are 5-up save and 7 wounds, so it's not necessarily going to be that useful against other teams, and it's markedly less scary. It's one of those things that doubles up. If you have low wounds and a low save, it's very scary. And if you're Space Marines that have high save and high wounds, it's like doubly not scary. But, right, I think it's quite a powerful ability. Not least because, even if it just takes someone down to injured or puts someone off going into an area, that's useful. And other teams, to get down their mines, they have to run a guy up, they place their one mine. This guy can just put down the 3 at the start of the game, and then your Iron Break actually just can run around like recharging your mines and flipping them back over and using them over and over again, which is pretty interesting. So I think the ability is a bit overwritten for what it is, but I think ultimately he's excellent, and especially in matchups against, like the box matchup against Genestealer Cult, he do really, really well. Okay, because it's a real risk for the Genestealer player to not get their guy one shot, right? Riflekin. So the Riflekin is a pretty standard sniper, right? So 4 dice hitting on 2, 3 AP1, heavy, silent, mortal wound 3. He has his Weavework Cloak, which is the standard sniper thing of getting to retain an additional normal save from cover, but you can also instead choose to retain 1 dice as a successful critical save instead of a normal save as a result of cover. So you can either have 2 normals or you can promote a critical. And it is before you roll your dice, but it's not before. I don't know why I've written it's not as useful. It's pretty useful because it is after you've seen what their dice are. So it's just a slightly better stealth cloak. Although to be fair, you got a silent weapon. You're quite often going to be like. Often with snipers, they don't get killed, right? They sit there with their with their silent weapon on conceal, behind a barricade, on a vantage point, controlling the board, and usually they're the last thing alive, right? But it's there if someone does come and try and kill you. It's a nice thing to have, right? Or if they've got some kind of ability to spot you, right? It's a nice thing to have at that point. Tracker. So the tracker's really interesting. He's got, I don't know what this is supposed to be. It's like Psi NR Hambo, but then run together, it kind of sounds like the English word sinner, which is a bit, I don't know. Anyway, it's a thing, right? And it's another silent weapon. 4 dice hitting on 4s, 3, 5. It's not bad. Throwing Hatchet is a grenade type thing, so it's a short range limited, also silent. 4 dice hitting on 3s, 3, 5, and rending. So in range, you may as well throw Throwing Hatchet instead of using your Hambo. And then in combat, he's got Hatchets, so 4 dice hitting on 3s, 4, 5. And this guy's basically an assassin type model, so this is really interesting. His whole thing, he's got a pan-spectral visor, so when he determines line of sight, if you're within red, when determining line of sight for his operative, enemy operatives within red that aren't ready can't be obscured or and are treated as having an engage order. So he wants to go after the sort of the leaders hiding at the back, the comms fellows that are just sort of, the Kazakhstan comms that are just chilling out there. Things your opponent doesn't really want to fight. This guy wants to go in and kind of try and wrinkle them out, which is pretty cool, right? It's pretty cool. And he's got this tracker ability, so every time he fights in combat or makes shooting attack against an enemy operative that's within red, if the enemy operative isn't ready in the roll attack dice step of the combat or shooting attack, you can do a lot of rerolls as well. So you're rerolling all the dice of one result. So he's quite cool in that he's someone who can normally, when your opponent's got a model like that and you want to get rid of it, you have to get up there and engage it in combat, and then you'll get hit back, right? So this guy can get within red of somebody that he wants to assassinate, and then have a go at him with the Hambo. And the Hambo isn't range red, so he can shoot with it as he's moving up, but obviously he needs to get within range red to trigger his special abilities. It's not superb, but it's like an interesting little guy. We haven't seen many models that are quite like this, right? Now, he does have an infinite range silent weapon, so you could use him as like a rubbish second sniper if that's what you wanted to do. I think that would be a bit of a waste, but what do I know? I'm not very good at this game. Okay. Last data sheet we've got is the Warrior. So, okay, the Warrior is a whole thing, right? On the face of it, it's not worth reading because it's just the basic stats, which you've looked at so many times. But you have some choices to make, and choices are really where I think a video like this is useful. So, because this is the part of the game that you need to think about before you build your models, right? Which is always the thing with Warhammer games, right? Because for other games, right, you can build your models, paint them, and then sit down to think about the rules, right? For Warhammer, you have to think, okay, how do I want to actually build the model, right? So this is a thing. So to remind you, we're forced to take 3 warriors, right? And you have to choose. You can have the revolver and the knife or the shotgun. So on the face of it, looking at the thing, you've got your bolt revolver, right? 4 dice sitting on 4s, 3, 5. Yeah. Your shotgun, which has a short range profile of 4 dice sitting on 3s, 4, 4. So you really probably want that shotgun for the short range profile that hits on 3s, and the option of a rubbish long range profile in case you want to use it. But at the same time, you've got access to a plasma knife, which is, 3/5 lethal, 5 up. So the plasma knife is possibly going to do things, right? I think the plasma knife, again, I've said it a couple of times, I see that lethal 5 up and I go, cool, I want that one. So you want the plasma knife. So straight off the bat, I'm thinking, okay, cool, bolt revolver and plasma knife it is. But it's not that simple. So in the equipment list, right, you've got the option to buy for any of your models a plasma knife for 2 EP, a bolt revolver for 1 EP, or a bolt shotgun for 3 EP. So, right, if you start them off with the shotguns, there's no point buying them the bolt revolver, right, they never use it, and buy them the plasma knife, right, that's spend 6 EP, but then you've got the best of both worlds. You've got the best range profile and the best melee profile for your 3 models. If that's what you want to do and you're willing to spend 6 EP, then you should take shotguns. If it's not what you want to do, because you want to spend your EP on something else, then I think you should take pistols and knives. Now, here's where it gets kind of tricky, right? This team has access to climbing equipment for 1 EP. This team has a move value of 2 circle. I think 10 climbing ropes is a really tempting way to go for the equipment on this team, right? Because otherwise, they're never getting up anywhere, right? Especially if you're playing Beta Decima, obviously, right? Because there's loads of things to climb in Beta Decima. But even on Season 1, 10 climbing ropes is really, 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 cool. But then you've got the problem of, 10 climbing ropes is pointless on Into the Dark. Well, it's not. It lets you traverse your barricades for free, I guess. But, it doesn't do very much. So in Into the Dark, you definitely want to go down the shotguns and then the extra knives route, potentially. So maybe you magnetize your warriors so you can hot swap between the weapons, depending on the kind of map you're on. It's really got... things might become a bit more clear if we look at the equipment list. So I've talked about this a lot already, okay? So first of all, let's just go through the other equipment that's here. So you've got stabilized shells. The stabilized... There's a lot of text here. The stabilized shell takes a shotgun, right? Adds 1 to both damage characteristics, okay, and improves the ballistic skill by 1. But you lose access to the short range thing, right? So, to look at this, you would be spending 1 EP to have a long range profile that was 4 shots, hitting on 4s, 3/3 damage. I'm so impressed, right? And you lose the ability to do the short range shot. And then if you really need to do a short-range shot, you can spend an EP to load extra bullets. That's awful. Firestorm bolt shells for 1 EP. So again, you don't have to worry about the changing the shells out for this one. It just gives you an additional an additional profile, which is kind of weird. Why the stabilized shells have the whole thing where you pay an AP to change the ammo, and then there's another equipment that's also ammo, but that doesn't have the massive penalty of 1 AP to change the ammo, right? So if you've ever played Necromunda, you'll know what this is. This is just giving you the standard scattergun shot, right? So it's giving you shells that are range red and have a blast, okay? 4 dice hitting on 3s, 2/4 damage. So, you're basically going, okay, so I'm going to trade my 4/4 damage for 2/4 damage. I'm going to gain blast, okay, and I'm going to leave my BS where it is. So I'm losing 2 points off my normal damage, but I'm gaining blast, which is fine, right? It's fine. I don't know if it's worth 1 EP most of the time. You've got your Gravetic Concussion Grenade for 2 EP, which is a slightly better frag grenade. I don't know. And then you've got your KV Ceramide Undersuit for 1 EP. Each time a shooting attack is made against his operative, his ranged weapon has the blast or torrent special rule. In the roll defense dice step of that shooting attack, you can reroll one of your defense dice. The operative is unaffected by splash. Like, it's so like, oh, it's not like everybody's running loads of flamers all everywhere. So there's not that many blast or torrent weapons kicking around. Obviously, if you run into a team that this is like a compendium Tyranid team, they've probably taken loads of those breath weapons that are like the splash weapons and all this. So, very rare situation you might look at the opponent's team and go, oh no, I want this, right? Maybe against novitiates with 2 flamers. But generally speaking, I think you can ignore this as well. So, I come back to climbing equipment, right? You're a 2-circle move team. Being able to climb up to 3 circles for 1 circle, right, is good. It's going to let you actually get on top of terrain features. Okay, I think that's great. You can drop for free. Okay, no, sorry, drop is half the drop as well. So yeah, I think 10 climbing equipment is very, very tempting, and other content creators haven't said 10 climbing equipment, so I wonder if I'm just fundamentally wrong about something. But I just think on Season 1 or Better Decima, I'd probably want to go 10 climbing equipment. And then you've got the weird thing of Into the Dark, where on Into the Dark you're like, okay, so on Into the Dark then, if you want to take knife guys on open board and Better Decima, and then Into the Dark you want to take shotgun guys and spend 60p on knives, and then you've got 4 AP to do something else, and you could buy them all Firestorm bolt shells, because on Into the Dark the Firestorm bolt shells are like, oh, they have blast 1, but then they also have lethal 5 up. So you've got more chance of getting more lethal hits, more crits through, which are harder to block. So maybe the Firestorm bolt shells become worth a look, and you could buy them for all 3 of your warriors, and then you'd have 1 point left over, and you could buy a Psy Keramide undersuit for your leader. But it's just tricky, because do you want to buy 3 extra Hernkyn Yagers just to have the option of swapping your warriors around in case you're on Into the Dark, or do you just build your guys as knife and pistol fellows, and then if you're playing Into the Dark, you go, cool, I guess I'll spend 9 EP giving them shotguns from the equipment list, right, and then a Psycheramide undersuit, and lose the slight marginal advantage of 3 sets of Firestorm bolt shells for the improved real world modelling, like not having to track down 3 extra models or do a load of fiddly magnetising. Let me know what you think. It's like ever so slightly suboptimal, but it means that you can just have 10 guys that are glued together properly. Maybe I'm dead wrong, right? And people really like the shotguns all the time, and they're like, basically, I feel like the rest of the internet's decided, oh, you always want to take the shotguns and you always want to take the plasma knives, and that's how you do it. And it's like, but the climbing equipment, I don't understand. Why do you not want all climbing equipment? Like, such an asset. Like, oh, a low wall, right? A low wall. I don't have to worry about it. So I don't know. I prefer the climbing equipment for sure. Yeah. Although, yeah, it doesn't actually help you with traverse, does it? I'm just reading it again, but it does help you with climb. So I still think climbing equipment. Tac Ops. Look at that, Tac Ops. Ruthless Exploitation. Hernkyn Yagir, faction tac op on. Reveal this tac op the first time an enemy operative that isn't ready is incapacitated. If an enemy operative that isn't ready is incapacitated in a subsequent turning point, you score a VP. If you achieve the first condition in another subsequent turning point, you score 1 VP. So this one's tricky because you don't get to score first. You have to kill 3 non-ready enemy operatives, right? The first one turns on the possibility of scoring an attack op. The second one scores the first VP. The third one scores the second VP. Now, this is an interesting one because it seems relatively easy to score. Generally speaking, people will have a tendency to charge guy forward, do stuff, maybe kill one of your guys, loot an objective, whatever. And then quite often people leave ready operatives where they can be shot. And then the game is, well, you'd rather try and kill an operative that could still activate, right? And not the non-ready one. And I worry that if you take this, it might You know, you're then going, aha, well, I need to score Ruthless Exploitation, so quickly I'll go and kill this guy that's already activated. And your opponent's like, okay, that means I get another activation over here because you didn't try to take the other you didn't try to take kill the other guy that could still have activated. So a tough one. Seems quite easy to score, but is it going to force you to do suboptimal things to score it? I don't know. Bonds of Loyalty, Hernkyn Yagir Faction Tac Op 2. If an enemy operative that incapacitated a friendly Hernkyn Yagir operative is itself incapacitated during the same turning point, you score 1 VP. If you achieve the first condition in a subsequent turning point, you score 1 VP. So this seems, I don't know, I wrote harder in the text. Is it harder? Is it easier? I'm really not sure. I think what I want to do, as I've said here, is to play both and see which one feels like it happens more. Because they're both ultimately about killing the enemy, just with weird, different conditions. Like reading it again through now as I'm recording, I'm thinking Bonds of Loyalty is maybe the one to pick. The first time when I prepared the slide deck, I thought Ruthless Exploitation was the one to pick. So this is why I think they're very similar, and they're pretty close to each other. Protect Locator Beacon, Faction Tac Op 3. Reveal this Tac Op in the target reveal step of the first turning point. Select one objective marker. At the end of the battle, if enemy operatives have never been within white of that objective marker during the battle, you score 1 VP. Okay. That's a thing, isn't it? And if your friendly Hernkyn Yagir objective is within circle of that objective marker controls it, at the end of the battle, you score the other VP. So you're putting this on your home objective. And on the one hand, it seems a bit rubbish because it's quite easy for your opponent to deny it if they just run somebody up. Like, never take this against Commando because the Grot can just be like, I'm over here now. And never take it against Mandrakes. Like, but on the other hand, I suppose it does have the thing where against some teams, it, does the Fire Warriors or the Vet Guard player, these kind of really shooting teams, do they want to be trying to concern themselves with your home objective? Or is that going to be a free, easy 2 VP for you against those teams that are a bit more sit back and shoot oriented? Potentially. So potentially it's a clever, sideboard pick against teams that you think, actually, they're not going to want to come over here because they've all got long-range weapons. Interesting thoughts. And of course, you are a team that doesn't mind getting stuck in. You've got a fair number of combat specialists. You've got your plasma knives on your warriors. You don't mind having a fight with people who are, Tau or guardsmen, right? Okay, and we've done final thoughts. What have you seen that I've totally missed, and where do you disagree? Let me know. I think it's really odd. Rules-wise, I think these are more interesting. Maybe a better team than Brood Brothers, but I'm more excited about the Brood Brothers in terms of the models and the lore. Don't know. I do also think this is a better team than the first Leagues of Votann team. So I think if you are a Votann enjoyer, my read is that this might be the better team to play of the two. Let me know what you think in the comments. Thank you to all my members. That's the people that pay me a monthly fee every month, but especially to Nightfall and Massive Crit, who are both members on the highest tier of membership and therefore get a personalised greeting in every single video. I want to say thank you to all my subscribers as well. If you have watched this far and you're not subscribed, please do consider subscribing for free. That really helps me out. And yeah, join the Discord, join in, leave a comment, do a like, do all the YouTube things. Thank you so much, and I will see you again next time. Cheery, cheery, bye.